on Sunday Live. It's a very packed program today. We're starting a little bit late. I have two special guests, my brothers, Botsang, Moiloa, and also my brother Tshepo Kgadima. You know them, the superstars from the bygone time of ANN7. So what I want us to do with them is to review the week, some of the important topical questions, which of course were covered, some of them not covered. We'll do that for, say, the next 15 minutes or so, just dealing with the week and the big questions of the week. And then the last 30 minutes, we will zero in on ANN7. I call it the demise of the ANN7. We'll have to understand what happened there. This is, of course, prompted by the fact that we know, all of you who follow Afro Worldview, which is a different thing, I would argue, from ANN7, has been shut down. And is it tomorrow or day after?
Tuesday after tomorrow. Tuesday after tomorrow. Yes,
Tuesday, Questberger will determine whether he gives it to Mani or he gives it to someone else. But it is good to do a post-mortem, if you like, of what ANN7 stood for. Those of you who have joined the program live, you're welcome to Mngxitama on Sunday Live. Please share. Those of you who are live on Facebook and so on, share the program so that others are aware that the program is on. And also we ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Black First, Land First. That is our YouTube channel, Black First, Land First. Please subscribe so that you're able to follow us every time we're on. And also please share, those of you who are on the different Facebook platforms of this program, please share so that people are aware that Mngxitama on Sunday is about to kick off. We have many important issues to go through today. And let me just tell you also, my brothers, that this program is in the 13th episode, if you like. And we have grown. We used to be on average 6,000 a week. Now we are over 10,000 a week. Yes,
congratulations.
Thank you, my brothers.
good number.
Yes, so we must keep on doing this. Now, before we start, I want us to just I want to reflect on some of the unfortunate events in our nation. A student has been killed by the police at TUT. You know, Cyril Ramaphosa's rule was indicated what they're going to do from Marikana. They shoot, they kill. These students are fighting about SRCs. I mean, we should not lose a student life as a result of SRC elections. It's a sad day for us, and we as Black First Land First want accounting, and we call on the police and Ramaphosa to remove the police from our campuses. Demilitarize our campuses. It's very important. Ramaphosa has been asked by students who have been camping for, I think, over a week now at the Union Buildings lawns. They asked Ramaphosa to pardon them. Students of fees must fall. Ramaphosa is not interested. Apparently he has said he will do it. We want to put our voices and say, Ramaphosa, pardon those students. They're not criminals. They're fighting for free education, which of course President Zuma gave us. So do the right thing. Ramaphosa, don't listen to Stellenbosch. We know that Stellenbosch don't do that. And in conclusion, on just the opening remarks, and I mean, you also can add as more Africa. You know, yesterday we bid our last farewell to Mama Veronica Sobukwe.
Well, the unfortunate situation and incident that actually happened at the last moment of sending off of Mama Sobukwe. However, Andile and the viewers, I have to say, it does not surprise me that those PAC or APLA forces, they reacted in the manner which they reacted. Because we all know that the ruling party, as well as the white people in this country, they have tried by all means to destroy the legacy of Robert Sobukwe and the family. And for them to come today and try and force the PAC to sing the South African national anthem, which the PAC has rejected outrightly from the beginning, as well as to go and wrap the coffin of Mama Sobukwe with the South African flag, I think as a Pan-Africanist that would have been an insult for a person that the government never recognized for so many years until in the last few years where he was giving some order of government. And I think those forces were correct to remove the South African flag from raping. That was not a national funeral. How do you bestow a national funeral on somebody that you failed to recognize all your life? And also most of Africanists, actually and black conscious activists, they've rejected the South African national anthem to say it's a compromised national anthem. I wouldn't want the South African national anthem to be played at my funeral personally, because I think it's a compromise anthem which actually only the Africans part of it. It talks of land. So you can see how the Afrikaners were very serious about the ownership of the land, that they actually took the part that talks about the land. But it was an unfortunate situation and a good, well sent off of Mama Sobukwe.
Okay, Siti Umama ahambe kahle. Now, Brother Tshepo, it was a busy week again of racism. You know, they say this guy in some Greek island there, he's shouting at us about us being kafirs. A brother who's a lawyer here in
Yes. Damn. Yeah.
You know, I feel like we are under siege, and every time there's an individual act of racism, we are corralled into reacting without having put our effort in ending the system of white power which makes individual racism possible. We are kept busy. So what do you think should happen here, Brother Tshepo, with this individual acts of racism which just keep on coming more and more, if you like, naked?
Yeah.
How the racists no longer hide it. They are more confident to be racist in South Africa, these white people. And I say maybe we must take their power to be racist away.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, that they are confident to be able to unleash the despicable acts of racism upon the indigenous people of this land, because they are very much assured that the law enforcement agencies in this country will not touch them. They know full well that there is no deterrent mechanism for acts of racism, and that the perpetrators always walk scot-free without any punishment of any kind whatsoever. However, this reminds me of what John F. Kennedy once said, that those that make it impossible to be able to negotiate and live in harmony with others make perhaps it inevitable for a violent revolution. And that is where this country is going to lead to. This is not just some talk, it is a very serious warning that for as long as the state continues to neglect, continues to fail to uphold the constitution of this country, which amongst other things demands or promises the citizens that their dignity will not be impaired. So the black people of this country's dignity was impaired in the most despicable manner by the young man who did so, thought that because he's in Greece, he can talk to his friends who would have been in South Africa, because the term that he used, there is no kefir inside. It only would have resonated with South Africans.
Absolutely.
So his
Absolutely.
friends,
Absolutely.
his associates, the people that he does business with, the people that, it means that when they were amongst themselves, they felt very safe to be able to call the indigenous people of this country in the most derogatory terms as he did. So we should not just look at him and perhaps try to explain the circumstances or give excuse as to why he did what he did, but look at it in the greater context that his actions are nothing but a microcosm of perhaps a much larger problem in this country, which for a long time it would appear that we have been hoping that it will go away. But more damning is the fact that the state is failing, the law enforcement agencies do not take the toughest measures, and we have a parliament, by the way, which to this day has failed. Not long ago with that estate agent from KZN during Christmas, who again referred to black people in the most derogatory terms at the beach, Penny Sparrow.
Yeah.
What happened of what came out of Penny Sparrow? And if we look at their political parties, whether it's the African National Congress, the Democratic Alliance, EFF, none of them have got any interest whatsoever to ensure that the dignity of the indigenous people of this land is not impaired any further. If anything, the question that must be asked, why on earth do we have these political parties in parliament if they fail to bring about the laws when their primary duty is to legislate to ensure that indeed the constitution can live for the majority and bring to fruition the promises that it carries? And one of them is that of dignity. It's a duty of the state, but the state is in neglect, and parliament as part of the state is failing us Hence, the law enforcement agencies are also doing as they please. And the despicable things, of course, that the law enforcement agencies themselves have become politicians.
That's it. I just want to direct, following up on that. AfriForum has just, I don't know if you've seen that, AfriForum has now launched an anti-racism unit. I mean, this is crazy, but I mean, again, in South Africa, you can do that. There's a racist organization in Germany. And neo-Nazi organizations are banned. Nazi organizations are banned. In this country, you have the AWB, it operates. But before maybe you answer that question or you comment, EFF has come out to fight against this Adam guy, this Greek guy. They even went to his house. But EFF has given political power to, Helen Zille, who says colonialism was not bad. So I don't understand this inconsistency. You give political power to Helen Zille, who says colonialism is not bad. You go fight a white guy who simply calls us kefirs. Where is this racism offensive and where is it acceptable? It is very confusing.
There's actually no line in between, Andile. We should not be confused by the fact that the DA itself is a racist organization or an organization that was founded on racial principles. It is predominantly white male. And that is something that is against the constitution of the EFF itself. So it's surprising how the EFF goes and starts donating black votes to a white racist organization. It's not only white racist, it's also chauvinist or male chauvinist, organization. However, it is actually a joke for me that the EFF stands up and go and protest against one attempt or comment by one racist white guy, while they've actually given the whole power of Tshwane, Gauteng, and Nelson Mandela Metro to a racist white organization. So we shouldn't be fooled as a nation to think this micro-mini protest in front of people's houses by the EFF thinking that they are against a white racism. It's something. If they were against white racism, they would have actually withdrawn their votes from the DA, since the DA all along when there's racist utterances, the DA stands up and defends white people. It defends the actions of those people. The DA talks about how those people should be given a fair chance, a fair trial in court. So it means they are actually not worried about the actions of their people, but they are worried about the processes of the law. And this takes me to a situation whereby you raised earlier on about Afro Worldview, coming, we have until on Tuesday to can decide on that Becker, again a white person, is going to decide whether a white channel should continue or not. So banking on political parties that are in parliament, as Tshepo has alluded to, thinking that they will change the life of a black person, it is not going to happen. We cannot bank on those people. They've proved that they are in parliament for their own best interest. They connive with these racist white parties. They connive with white people. When a black person in South Africa does the wrong thing, they are met by bullets, they are met by jail. The BLF 26 people spent over a week in jail. They spent over a year on a trial. They did not have the hearing take. But when white people come and do wrong things against people, we are told about the constitution of the country, we are told about the processes of the law, we are told about democracy and people being given a fair chance to prove themselves in court, while we know that in South Africa you're not innocent until proven guilty. I've said it before, you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. And that's how the rule of law works in this country.
To this day is that why has the president of this country, Cyril Ramaphosa, failed or refused or just for whatever reason have not met with Donald Trump as president of the United States to date? They should have had a bilateral. And in fact, the most opportune time whereby President Ramaphosa could have met with President Trump was in Canada when they went for the G7 meeting. Donald Trump arrived late at that meeting before he went to Singapore, and he set the tone very clearly that his counterparts within the G7, he didn't think much about them for as long as the United States continued to have the type of a trade deficit it has with those countries, and that will be it. So it should have been as a signal. Why? South Africa, we must bear this in mind, 90% of our exports to the United States are largely in the, or 90% are in the auto manufacturing sector. So if you look at all the automakers, the vehicle manufacturers, or rather assemblers, whether you talk about Japan, which is Toyota, We talk about the Ford Motor Corporation, which is of the United States itself, of course, but more importantly, Germany. We're talking about Daimler. We're talking about, which is Mercedes-Benz. We're talking about BMW. And all of those automakers, they are established here in South Africa because South Africa is one of the countries eligible to export to America duty-free. There are no tariffs. However, that is not a bilateral agreement between Africa and the United States. It's an act of Congress in the United States that was passed to give Africa as a whole a help to say trade is better than aid. Now, that would have made sense. Now, in South Africa, we sit in a situation whereby the people who are benefiting from our membership of AGOA are foreigners. But of course, they employ South Africans, however limited or however many they are. Now, if we do not ensure that we can explain our position, still maintain our sovereignty with the United States, and we are excluded.
But Trump is very clear. Trump says, basically, you can't touch the land of white people. You can't expropriate land without compensation. I, as big brothers, I'm watching, and if you touch white people, we coming for you. That's how I understand it.
The tweet clearly comes from misunderstanding by President Donald Trump. He completely misunderstands. I don't think he still remembers where South Africa is. It was incumbent upon our leadership to have gone. How can we have AfriForum, a racist organization, go to the United States, lobby members of Congress, lobby the politicians in the United States, go and tell blatant lies, and our own people who are in power, they somehow are helpless and have not engaged to say, these people, first and foremost, they are lying.
They shouldn't. They must be in jail.
We should not look at what AfriForum is doing or what they cannot do. It's an organization that we have allowed as a nation to exist, as racist as they are. We are not countering what they are doing. South Africa has diplomatic offices. The minute AfriForum landed, and they didn't only address the United States, they also addressed the UN in this issue. The very same UN that has come and declared racism and apartheid crimes against humanity. But they allow them to speak to people who are fostering those things actually. Now, what we were supposed to be doing as a nation, we've got at least 3 diplomatic offices in the United States. We've got an embassy in Washington. We've got consulate offices. What are our people who are sitting in the United States doing instead of addressing and correcting these lies that AfriForum is sowing to the heads of people like President Trump? We are not doing what we are supposed to be. Also, after it becomes aware to us as a nation how the U.S. from their president to the last president have been misled, we still sit back and we think Trump has done an error in tweeting. I don't think it's an error. Donald Trump has been very clear from the very beginning that he's a white racist person. He doesn't hide it. He says it in front of black people. He tells them directly to their faces. It is how we are going to conduct and respond to the utterances of Donald Trump. People will say, but once we start challenging the USA, they will shut us down, the economy will suffer. I always say, but whose economy? It is the same American.
But I think the two possible real interventions we need. The first is we stop talking about land expropriation without compensation. Just do it. That's the first thing. But the second is we are part of the BRICS network. Shouldn't we be talking to China and Russia to say, look, Americans are attacking our sovereignty through our partnership? No. But now, Zuma is not there. I don't know if Ramaphosa can do it.
I agree with you.
Before you respond, I think you must give that brother the camera and then try to sort this thing out. Okay. Anyway, yes.
Yeah. Look, I think I agree with you. We must stop mollycoddling these racist whites. First and foremost, the issue of land in South Africa. And Botsang, on the now defunct ANN7, always made a point, which is a very important point, that only 34,000 white families in this country have got access to land. So if you've got 4 million white people, and only 34,000 are holding land, they dispossessed not just us as the indigenous people of this land, they dispossessed even their people of their kind. But here you have a situation whereby white people here who have no land whatsoever, They now have made this to be their problem. Of course, AfriForum is such. So it tells you everything about the integrity.
But AfriForum represents their. I don't think we can blame AfriForum. AfriForum represents land thieves. AfriForum represents its constituency. AfriForum is part of the global white supremacist project, which Trump is part of. That's why they can go out and start. The point is this: the South African government. How do you allow economic terrorists, which is AfriForum, because that's what they're doing. They are calling for sanctions against South Africa. They are saying foreign powers must intervene in our nation, and our government is paralyzed.
And we let them operate in the country as a nation. That's why the problem is terrorism. If it was in the year of apartheid, an organization like AfriForum would have been declared a terrorist organization. And terrorism cannot only be when there's arms involved. This, as you say, Andile, this is an economic terrorism. They are lobbying the owners actually of capital in this country. What AfriForum is doing is actually telling the South African government that you don't own that land, you don't govern that country, we don't rule the country. You may have the constitution, but there are powers out there which are beyond the constitution, and those powers are economic powers. Tshepo, you made an example of how we have
I say. For me, AGOA, the opportunities and all that goes with the economic sabotage is organized by AfriForum, is a consequence of a clear systematic strategy by AfriForum to put pressure on this government to terrorize politicians. And they know as soon as Trump speaks, America speaks, Ramaphosa will get, that is for him the cue to fold. And the ANC will say, we can't do this thing because...
But here is the issue. We have a president who continues to be timid, and that is unacceptable. There is no reason whatsoever why South Africa should be timid. Yes, I spoke about AGOA, but that should not be a deterrent that, oh, we are scared that we will lose our AGOA benefits. In fact, we should expropriate land, because we are expropriating only from an absolute minority, 34,000 families, but we ensure that everybody can have access to land, and particularly black people. That's the one thing. However, South Africa is in the most geographically strategic location than any other in the world. We've got the Atlantic Ocean, we've got the Indian Ocean. All of the world's trade has to come on our borders. I can tell you now, the whole world cannot afford South Africa that is not stable, cannot afford South Africa whose sovereignty is impinged upon. It cannot afford that, because we can bring to a complete end all of the world's trade, all of the merchant ships that make the economy of the world run. We can bring it to an end if we have stability. Therefore, that strategic advantage, why is President Cyril Ramaphosa not exercising it? Why is he not communicating in clear terms that our sovereignty is not something we are going to gamble with once again? We are going to assert ourselves. We will not be timid. And on this issue of land, we will do it because it is the right thing to do. And engaging, there is no leader anywhere in the who can be able to argue against the program of land restitution and distribution.
It's like we are asking a dog to meow, a dog barks. I mean, Ramaphosa's job is to advance the interests of the global West. This is, and the global West.
If he can't do that, he must not be in position. But I think that's the same demand that we must make. That, President, you do this. If you can't do this, tell us today, not next year. Tell us today that this I cannot do, and therefore we find somebody who can do it. And that is actually the approach that must be adopted. If we have any leader today who is not for ensuring that the issue of land, once and for all, we can answer it. The issue of economic emancipation of the people of this land is a reality. We must not have such a person as a leader, and let's not wait for elections. In Australia, they've just removed their prime minister. Why are we not removing
I don't think we don't talk about elections. I think the problem is not only Ramaphosa, it's the ruling party in general. Whoever will sit there, if the ruling party with their majority in parliament is not willing to exercise the sovereignty of South Africa, then we'll never win this battle. You spoke of the strategic position where South Africa is sitting when you look at international trade. And what are we doing with it? We're not using it. Andile earlier on mentioned a very critical one. With the strategic position or geographical position of South Africa, we even have BRICS now, which can, if you look at the economy of Russia and China, just those two only, and you took South Africa and India, you put them together, none of the West will match BRICS. And we are not taking advantage of the BRICS.
But to be honest, it needs a leader with a vision which is anti-West. That leader is not in power today. Zuma is not in power today. You have a leader who is pro-West. Therefore, this threat of I almost said Pravin, of Trump.
Well, he's also a threat.
Yes, exactly. We'll come to Pravin. But it seems to me that it's an opportunity for the right wing, led by Ramaphosa, to get an excuse why they should not implement land expropriation without compensation. That's what they will use these Trump threats for. BLF, the organization I lead, is, you know, it says to solve part of this problem, firstly ban AfriForum. AfriForum must be turned into a criminal organization. It is. You can't have a white supremacist organization operating. You must bring charges of economic sabotage and terrorism against AfriForum, so that also the Americans get to understand why you can't listen to these people. Exactly. But you must also move with speed in expropriating land without compensation. Do not make it a long talk. And then I think I will be talking to China. I will be talking to Putin right now to say we are under attack. We need you to come out and to speak in our interest. But we have a problem. Our president will not go to China and will not talk to Putin. In fact, I think he welcomes this threat from Donald Trump. I would have gone into EFF also, how they were calling FBI to come in South Africa to deal with, you know, Zuma when Zuma was their problem. So you have political parties who are amenable to the West.
In the West.
The people at home know full well the hardships that they are facing. That is why we need this type of discussions, discourse and debates to be in every corner of this land, so that we have an informed citizenry that is very much aware and alert. Because it's from that alertness that we can bring an end to this system that has failed and is perpetuating pain and misery upon our people. And that system that has failed is the political system in terms of the political parties that are in parliament, including what we call the governing party or the ruling party, that for its continued mollycoddling white monopoly capital at our expense, we have to bring it to an end if they are not able to lead and do what is right for the majority here. And as for Donald Trump as president, yes, he's president of the United States, but he must be told that under no category, the people of South Africa are the ones that vote. It's not AfriForum. It's not the 34,000 whites who are privileged. Some of whom, by the way, own so much land, and not until long ago they couldn't even go to America because they were criminals. Had it not been for Obama to give them...
one thing about Trump and the land question that we may be failing to pay attention on why they get excited about this, we should recall that, you know, earlier on you mentioned how some white people in this country are not owning that land. It is because majority of commercial tourism and profitable land in this country is owned by white foreigners. The imperialists who are owning and controlling the land in South Africa. That's what will make people like Trump to jump and to be excited, because white Americans, white British people who are not sitting here, not the so-called Boers or Afrikaners, the people who are sitting in the United States who own the whole of Cape Town today. And that's why the United States and their president will get excited about this. Telling Trump it's not even going to change anything. What should change is the time frame in South Africa about land expropriation. This parliamentary process, these talks that they are taking to the nation and to the public, I think it is just a joke. It is a time and money wasting tactic. It is going to delay this whole process of land expropriation. We know that the Constitution of South Africa at the moment, no matter how much people twist and turn it around, Tshepo, we know that Section 25 will not deliver land the way it's supposed to deliver land. We allowed this country to have a constitution that classified commercial land, like mines, like tourism land, as private land. That's why today we can expropriate land, because a person, an individual can own a mine in South Africa. An individual can own Tshepo Mountain in South Africa. 2 weeks ago I wrote an article and I said to the people, are you aware that the cradle of humankind, which is 53,000 hectares of land, is privately owned by white people? Over 70% of that it's owned by foreign white people. Anybody can go and check it.
So basically,
and the taxpayer, by the way, pays rent.
It's maintaining and to maintain
for that cradle of humankind facility. The taxpayer in Gauteng, they make an appropriation because it's subsidized. It cannot make its ends meet. So we are enriching somebody who doesn't even reside in this country.
Bottom line is Black First, Land First says land or death. It is clear. If you want land to return, you have to be prepared for real hardship. In fact, you must be prepared to even lose your life. That's why land or death. There is no other way. White people were prepared to bleed. I think we must give them credit. They were prepared to bleed to get this land. They fought for this land, white people. We think we can get it without a fight. We are not naive. Serious about it, which is very naive. They brought down Zimbabwe as a result of the president of Zimbabwe back then giving back land to the Zimbabwean people. If you want land to be returned, you must be prepared for the big battle ahead. And that's why black first, land versus land or death. I agree with you. This story of the parliamentary process is just delaying tactics and playing games with our people so that they can get votes. Politicians want votes from our people. They will not give them land.
What's constraining ANC and EFF to tomorrow, Monday?
They have
to make a joint announcement that this is the change or amendment to Section 25, and then to give effect to land expropriation.
It's very simple. The ANC and the EFF are dependent on white capital to fund those organizations. They will not do anything under the sun that will rattle white capital. They will not. And anybody who has brains should be able to say, but they have the majority. The two combined, they are talking the question of land. They are quoting the Freedom Charter. They are talking about Section 25. They can meet Monday morning. This Section 25 will happen, and land will be brought back to the people constitutionally. But because they don't belong to themselves, they don't own themselves. They are being owned by white capital. They are being funded by white capital. Once they start touching white capital, they will lose billions that are being funded and pushed into this organization to think white, to operate white, to protect white interests. And that is the problem we are sitting with.
You are watching Mngxitama on Sunday Live. I have my two special guests here. We're going through some of the themes that, as we say, the news that not make the news. You heard EFF and ANC, if they are serious about land expropriation without compensation, tomorrow in Parliament, they can meet. They have the 2/3 majority. They can simply announce that now we agreed, and here is the formulation, and we'll have the land expropriation without compensation. They have the 2/3 majority. The truth of the matter is, they will not do it.
They are therefore the enemy of the people. Their refusal to do this which we are saying, they have now become the enemy of the people.
So we say as Black First, Land First, tell the ANC and EFF, if you do not amend the constitution before 2019, no land, no vote for you. We'll vote for those people who are prepared to bring back the land and fight for it. And you have an option now. Black First, Land First will be on that ballot. And together with those who want to fight, we'll make sure that we get our land back. Okay, I want us to move now to the Zondo Commission. It is called, the first question I want to ask is this. Is there a difference between a commission of inquiry and a judicial commission of inquiry?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. What are these differences? The question is there a difference between just a commission of inquiry, as it happened in Marikani? It was not a judicial commission of inquiry.
It was a judicial.
Which one was just a commission? The fees thing, for instance.
The fees thing was a judicial commission.
So okay, let's say what's the difference? I'm a little bit confused. What's the difference?
Well, a commission of inquiry, a minister can appoint a commission of inquiry. A judicial commission of inquiry can only be appointed by the president using the Commissions Act of 1947, and that Commissions Act of 1947 goes in tandem with the Constitution of the Republic, which was promulgated in 1996. However, one of the things that the Judicial Commission of Inquiry possesses special powers, powers to be able to investigate as well as to be able to preside, but it has to be by a judge. Mm-hmm. So, because we know that even when judges are retired, they still retain their judicial powers and authority. So that is the difference that is there, that only a president can be able to do that. But the key thing is that the ability for a judicial commission of inquiry to be able to investigate.
And they can even do, to add further, the judicial one can go to an extent of even recommending for prosecution.
Indeed.
Yeah. It can, while a normal commission inquiry, the recommendations are not binding, if I may put it that way. The minister who is appointed, they will not be forced to implement that. But if it's a judicial one, they will be binding in line with the Act, that Tshepo of 1947, that Tshepo is referred to. And that is the difference between the two.
Now, here's the thing. I have, at this point, myself, I've looked at what's going on. I must tell you that I feel like we are under a serious propaganda attack.
Oh, yes.
And there are 2 or 3 things happening at the same time, by the way. There's the Nugget. This was this judge's name. Nugget, the SARS thing.
Yeah,
Nugent with the SARS. And then you have the Zondo Commission. Now, I will read a little bit about that Nugent, whatever you call this guy. But if you look at it, whether it is the Zondo Commission, the Judicial Commission on State Capture, we call it the Zondo Commission, because presided by...
it's the Zondo Commission.
The Zondo Commission, yes.
Yeah. And it seems to me, if you look at the characters, what is happening is that they are narrowing the terms of reference to Zuma Gupta. Just like how Thuli Madonsela initially wanted the Judicial Commission of Inquiry to just be Gupta, and whilst of course the terms of reference are broad, but the actual practice, if you look at the number of the list of witnesses they are calling, clearly they are turning it into a propaganda machine, and this propaganda machine is again to say the problem of corruption in this country is a problem of Zuma and the Guptas. It seemed to me that it is part of the electoral project of Ramaphosa. He's going to run an elections on the basis of an anti-corruption, and I've dealt with the Guptas and I'm dealing with Zuma, and will not deal with the economic transformation challenges that our people are facing. It seems to me this is what is happening with this commission.
And when we look at a commission, let us talk about the state. We should look at all the corruption that is happening in all tiers of government and state. But it is going to be up to those people who realize that this process is actually focused on Zuma and the Guptas. They should rise and say, I know of corruption that has happened at this tier of government and conducted by these people. The issue that ANN7 in the past has brought up about the 4 commercial banks in South Africa conniving with 13 other international banks to can devaluate the national currency, that is part of state capture. In my view, you cannot have a commercial bank actually conniving and devaluating the currency of the country, and you don't call it a state capture because you are actually stealing money on exchange rates from the country. So if we don't look at those factors, if we don't look at Marikana, there has been mines. There's been strikes in mines, there's been strikes in factories in South Africa, there's been student strikes, but never in the mines of South Africa strikes for over the number of years have people been killed and shot for asking for more money the way the people were brutally murdered in Marikana. That should form part of the state capture investigation to say why, when there were protests, one way people were demanding salary and better salaries, they were shot and killed, and only at one mine, when strikes have been happening at all mines in South Africa.
So Tshepo, is my concern legitimate that the Judicial Commission of Inquiry on State Capture has been captured by the interests of white monopoly capital? Because if they just want us to look at Guptas and Zuma, is to make sure that we don't look at the corruption, the broader corruption of white monopoly capital, which, I mean, you've been making big noise, Tshepo, about the 1.4 trillion rand, which is gone to these so-called IPPs. So that kind of conversation will not... So my concern, my big worry is the Judicial Commission of Inquiry on State Capture has been captured.
Oh yes, unfortunately so. And this is something that has to be remedied, has to be corrected as a matter of agency. Now, Judge Zondo, he's got a very limited window of opportunity to correct what is happening. Now, leader, I can tell you this. I am not an officer of the court, so I don't have most of the constraints that other practicing legal practitioners would have. I'm not an officer of the court. So I can tell you one thing. As for the Nugent Commission on SARS, it is a kangaroo court. And Judge Nugent, he can say whatever he says, he will never be able to hold cause based on the conduct, his conduct to date, on why his is not a kangaroo court. The question then is, why would we as South Africa allow state resources to be abused in the manner that they are, to pay this retired judge millions of rands for presiding over a kangaroo court, whereby he is effectively harming, he's not advancing. The purpose of that commission has been subverted and, lest I say, even defiled. So that must be brought to an end. But he's presiding over a kangaroo court. But as for Judge Zondo, the jury is still out, but in a short order of time, we will know whether or not he himself has kowtowed and agreed to preside over another kangaroo court. In what way? You cannot have in a judicial commission of inquiry with the scope that this one has, have witnesses that testify without evidence, have witnesses that testify without ever being cross-examined. Because then how are we going to verify? Because here it should be any witness that testifies should be testifying to assist the commission to be able to come to a legally, procedurally sound finding. And as things go at the moment in terms of the people that have testified, even the witness that is to follow tomorrow, we cannot be, as South Africans, be subjected to people who come and read from Facebook posts and come and make wild allegations without ever adducing any evidence. And then we have a judge of the Constitutional Court, no less, a Deputy Chief Justice for that matter, himself allowing that. So it is incumbent upon him to rein in on his commissioners who have become politicians.
Two very worrying developments about these commissions, whether it's a Nugent or it's the Zondo Commission. The Zondo Commission, the question of cross-examination is still up in air. I mean, that shocks me, that, and I'm not a lawyer as well.
Well, what kind of law is that?
I mean, I can go in front of Zondo and simply say, Botsang is a thief, Botsang wanted to kill me, he wanted a bag of money, and so on and so forth. And so you will not have the opportunity
to come and cross-examine.
But that's the one thing. But Nugent, on the other hand, let me just want to cross-examination. Nugent is saying, and I'm going to read now a passage, he's saying he will accept evidence in camera, in secret, from former and present senior members of SARS. Now, SARS is run by crooks, the rogue unit people. So Nugent, this white man, is saying he will accept in secret evidence of people who we know have an agenda against a radical economic transformation to talk to him.
Nugent is an apartheid judge. And Nugent, in terms of before he retired, the judgments that he made, I can assure you, had those been challenged all the way to the Constitutional Court, they would never have been able to hold. Nugent is an apartheid judge who, by the way, it would appear from his conduct, and particularly for making such a a ruling that he will allow people only to testify in camera, it tells you that he has not read the Constitution of this republic, which is the supreme law of the land, which demands transparency, particularly in matters such as the one he's presiding over. We cannot have secrecy.
I'm sorry,
it is unconstitutional. How do we then allow it? How do we have a President Cyril Ramaphosa, who, by the way, instituted this commission, then himself sitting there allowing this, knowing full well that it is unlawful, more so it is untenable for the President of this country, having studied law, to allow such to happen unless...
You know what
I am sure
what is disturbing it's very clear to me that the government of the Republic of South Africa does not have confidence in their courts and legal processes. If they had confidence in that, these cases would have been handed over to the law enforcers, to the Department of Justice. They will be facing high courts of the country where information and testimonies will be tested, will be cross-examined, will be questioned.
So you're asking a simple question, Botsang.
Why are we not using the courts?
Exactly.
We have that option. Why don't we go to the police, lay the charges?
Yeah.
Lay the charges open, let there be an investigation. After the investigation, if there's people who have to be prosecuted, the National Prosecuting Authority, then we prosecute and we go to court. Public court, where everybody will be able to see, hear, listen to the testimony and witnesses. And people to defend themselves as well. Remember,
if not Nugget, this guy, Nugget, as you call him, is saying he's willing to take testimony in secret. It means, like, and he's a apartheid judge. It's like saying, calling, your apartheid agents. Mr. X is a Mr. X. Mr. X testimony.
This, but also, this is the same as the Zondo Commission, whereby we say, I will still decide whether I'm going to allow cross-examination or not. If somebody makes any allegations against me, I will want to sit in front of that person to ask for evidence, to ask for proof, and to say, let me ask this person questions, to go and verify and test what this person is saying. But this commission's, and let me tell you, it's a waste of money, it's delaying tactic for what? For defocus from land and other issues that black people want, like free higher quality education, expropriation of land, and black people govern their own country. This is the whole thing that has excited black people to lose focus on issues that blacks are supposed to be focusing on.
So just to come to just the media itself, how it's covering this. Looking at the Zondo Commission, I mean, the Sunday Times says there, Treasury mount Zuma fight back. See, I mean, and then let's just read some of just the first paragraph there. The headline is Treasury mounts Zuma fight back. Then it says ministers, officials line up at Zondo state capture inquiry. It's Ranjeni. Ranjeni Mngxitama says, Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene and Public Enterprise Minister Pravin Gordhan will headline a high-powdered list of current and former National Treasury officials who will present evidence to the Zondo Commission of Inquiry about how the Zuma administration tried to break down the department to aid state capture. They include those who appeared before Zondo. They include Director General Dondo Mokhajani, his predecessor Lungisa Fuzile, Deputy Director General Ismail Momoniat, and former official Andrew Donaldson, Kenneth Brown, Michael Sachs, and Fuad Kasim. The commission is yet to decide when it will call them. You see, these are all the anti-Zuma, pro-white monopoly capital people who were injured by President Zuma's removal of Pravin Gordhan. They are saying here, the newspapers themselves, Treasury mounts Zuma fight back. So this is a political attack.
Just one comment about this circus of these ministers who are on a wholesale of coming. If they say Zuma administration, was Pravin and all these others that were not part of the Zuma administration, they were part of the Zuma administration. They formed part of that cabinet, that executive authority. Now that they were left out in the cold and they are being brought out back now in a warm bed, they are pointing fingers at the Zuma administration. They were part of that process. So for me, I wouldn't listen to people who come and make such utterances when they were part of decision makers for whatever has happened in the country.
Okay, now we see, I mean, that list is all anti-Zuma people, anti-NDZ people.
Yeah, they can.
All Stellenbosch.
I must say commiserations to you for subjecting yourself to the ill health of having to read this nonsense.
I actually was shocked when I walked in to see this thing lying around
Anyway,
that's my burden. Yes, yes.
We hope you that maybe there'll be some viewers at home who will send you some herbs to bring down your blood pressure after reading this nonsense. But look, that being the case, National Treasury presides over macroeconomic policy of this country. And National Treasury, from inception of our democracy, failed to be able to manage macroeconomic policy matters of this country. Therefore, the people that you quoted there, none of them have got any right to tell us anything, because the reason why our country is in deep trouble, is in the problems that it is because they have been presiding over exactly this economic treasonous act of ensuring that our country today is one of the most indebted nations in the world. These very same people who mentioned their names there, it was under Pravin Gordhan, by the way, whereby we increased our indebtedness by more than 1.2 billion rand. The debt of this country today is at 2.5 trillion rand. Pravin Gordhan cannot account, he cannot give us a detailed account as to the use of proceeds. This year alone, today, by the end of today, we will have paid in excess of 493 million rand. Every day we pay 493 million rand in interest alone of the debt which we cannot even account. Our economy has not grown. If indeed Pravin Gordhan was as good as he liked the world to believe and got us into the amount of debt, and that money had gotten into the economy, our economy would not have been one of the highest unemployment in the world, with the highest youth unemployment in the world. We have all of those things, and he is the chief architect. Anybody can speak, but not Pravin Gordhan and that crew.
What I want to do, I just want us to remember, these newspapers themselves, they say the Zondo Commission is a mechanism to attack Zuma and the Gupta. So this is part of going back to the Gupta leagues, all that stuff which can't stand before court. We don't have the time, but we will go now a little bit because City Press got interesting headlines. But I want to read on this story of the Nugent, the apartheid judge. This guy, he says here, the headline, Sunday Independent, that's Sunday Independent. The headline there is that mosque attacks fall guy. But I mean, that is about the mosques attacks and so on. And a small headline on the side, it says, Nugent offers secrecy. Now, I want just to read, because I want us to look at what they're saying here. And then it says, senior South African Revenue Services, SARS officials, who have insight into the masterminds of the alleged collapse of the Revenue Authority, have been offered the opportunity to testify in secret. This was the guarantee given last week by Judge Robert Nugent, the chairperson of the Nugent Commission of Inquiry tasked with probing tax administration and governance at SARS during the tenure of suspended Commissioner Tom Moyane, which started in September 2014. The offer came as the commission is expected to hear testimony from Bain Consulting. I want you, Bain Consulting. Bain Consulting, agency, and the National Treasury this week. Bain Consulting is coming before Nugent and Treasury. Remember, Treasury on the other side. It's on, yeah. But now we're on the SARS matter now. Remember, there are two commissions almost running at the same time. They're coming before him. Bain is to give evidence about its alleged role in restructuring SARS operations after Moyane came to the helm. However, the commission has already heard that Moyane and his team allegedly rejected all Bain's recommendations. Here's the point: the secrecy. The apartheid judge says he's going to have a lot of Master X's coming before him. And we're talking about SARS. SARS has got a rogue unit. In the rogue unit already, we know 3 senior SARS members are actually in court for criminal activities. Now, this judge says he's going to call them in secret to hear them, and so that they can continue to attack Tom Moyane. This is a kangaroo court. For me, this is like a mafia operation. So they will attack this man in secret, and he'll have no means to know what is being said.
We are dealing with dishonest thieves, if there is ever such a thing. You know, both of it is a double negative. Using Donald Trump's word, it's a double negative.
Yeah.
Bain Consulting or Bain Company, let's first this. They were appointed illegally to go and consult for South African Airways. Themselves, together with EY, they pocketed in 1 year when Pravin Gordhan appointed them unlawfully without any due process. They pocketed 147 million rand in fees. So again here, even for their testimony before Nugent, how much are they going to be paid to go and manufacture and concoct evidence? Here we are dealing with the same Bain and Company, which of course came with none other than Coleman Andrews, who then left this country with 238 million rand handshake after not even 2 years on the job. The same Bain and Company.
How much did
Coleman Andrews was paid 238 million rand.
When South African Airways at that time was in raid and actually asking Treasury for bails, financial bailouts, the former CEO who actually even created the route, this was very interesting, where Coleman Andrews actually created an office at his private office of SAA in the US. SAA started having a direct route from Johannesburg to his hometown in the USA. That even continued to operate after Coleman Andrews had left the SAA, and the flights were running empty. They were transporting staff members, agents, and consultants that were consulting SAA, however, working to date. Medudu Mieni, the former chairperson of SAA, exposed that SAA is still having offices in Atlanta, while it does not have flights running to Atlanta. SAA is funding staff members whose faces are unknown, and it's people who were agents and working for Andrews. But let's go back to the SARS and the Nugent issue. When we read that article, you must pay attention to such little things. This newspaper or this article, it says officials who have insight into the masterminds of the alleged collapse of the revenue services. When did SARS collapse? when maybe I'm not living in this country. When did the South African Revenue Services collapse? We want to know that. But also, this old apartheid judge and his secret kangaroo court, if I was in Mr. Moyane's shoes, I will not go and sit in front of the kangaroo court. I will refuse to go and testify against faceless people. How will I test the testimony of people that I don't know their faces? We as a South African, we have allowed the system of apartheid to infiltrate the ANC as the ruling party, to continue to operate in the supposed to be democratic dispensation exactly the same way the apartheid system operated. As we said, Andile, we'll have the Mr. X's and the Mr. Y's, and you don't know about them when they are dead, or when 20, 30 years from now, somebody decides to write a book and mention who were these Mr. Y's and Mr. X's, like it has happened today. We have heard in the last few weeks how some apartheid spies had given the former ANC president, Ntato Liberational Tambo, a list of some people who were alleged to be apartheid spies and askaris who are in government today and who are conducting themselves in a manner that actually makes some of us to question. These people who were in jail, these people who were in prison, I'm not talking about the soldiers who were in the camps abroad, we're talking about the so-called leaders who were all over the world representing the liberation movement who went to jail. Were they really abroad to represent the interest of the black majority?